Regardless,
Amen.
I'm going to go over picks and bans here. I believe they just went for the same bans as the first game, and then they realized they didn't have to do that. So not really going to comment on those. We went over those in the first game. Overall, they're fine. I don't really have any complaints there, except Blue Team did fail to ban someone. In terms of picks, they have a Jungle Nocturne, a Caitlyn Leona bot lane, a Fizz mid, and a Tryndamere top. That's going to be facing into a Jax top, a Riven mid, a Varus Thresh bot lane, and a Amumu jungle. I have said this many times in my solo queue play, and maybe I'm incorrect, maybe you guys will disagree with me, but I really dislike playing Leona with a Caitlyn. And my reasoning is that Leona wants to go all in, Caitlyn wants to poke. Caitlyn, it's not that she doesn't have damage, it's not that she can't burst, but it's so much lower amount of burst than, let's say, playing pretty much any other carry with the Leona. You could be playing something like a Draven, Corki, Lucian, even like a Jinx. Pretty much everyone can burst harder than Caitlyn, and that's what Leona wants to do. It's not a terrible bot lane, it's just not the ideal synergy that I might like to see. Also, I would like to point out that their CC is pretty limited to the Fizz ult, Nocturne Fear, and Leona. So Leona's going to have a lot of pressure on her to really be able to land all of her stuns, because it's going to be her stuns generally setting up the rest of the CC from the team. So I'm really not trying to put too much pressure on her, but it will boil down to how well she can land her skills. On the split side, we mentioned in the first pick that Riven mid was so strong because Gragas mid was popular. Now that that's not the case, Riven mid is okay, but not nearly as strong as it once was. Jax top is absolute beast in solo queue right now. I really, really like him. He's really hard to shut down. Varus Thresh bot lane, huge amounts of damage and really good utility because Thresh can peel really nicely, he can engage really nicely, and he just has so many tools to keep Varus safe. And if Varus gets ahead, his damage is nothing to laugh at. He was a really popular pick for a while, and then of course it just became the Lucian, Kate, Jinx, Holy Trinity, and he stopped seeing play. But he's still a very strong champion. Same with Amumu. Amumu is overlooked right now because of all the Feral Flare junglers, but he's still a very strong pick, especially in solo queue where you need that I am engaging now, the entire enemy team is CC'd, and I took half their health style of gameplay. If you get super far ahead, I am actually a fan of AP Amumu in solo queue. It's not the most efficient route, but if you are ahead enough, you're tanky enough, it is pretty hilarious to use.
There is nothing more terrifying than farming top lane and a jungler, like a bandage flies at you, and you check and their jungler has a Zhonya's and a void staff, and you're like, oh no.
Oh, it is a beautiful thing. My favorite, of course, is Urf with him, where you land a bandage toss, you ult, and then your bandage toss comes back up. So you're pretty much guaranteed 3 tantrums and ult, 2 bandage tosses, plus all the ticking damage in the meantime.
So you're just like, what are you running from? The disease is inside of you.
So deep inside.
So, just notes on bottom lane. I'm not a huge fan of the Leona pick as a response to Thresh. And that's because Thresh can, first of all, knock Leona out of Zenith Blade with a well-timed flay. And that's obviously not ideal for Leona. Secondly, Leona is kind of a one-trick pony in that she goes in and she blows people up. And she's very good at that. Thresh is more flexible. And like you said, Leona is really their only form of CC, so there's a lot of pressure on her. While Thresh can, lock people down with his ult much easier.
Yeah, from Purple Team, they have so much CC. They have not a full wombo combo team, but if anyone is caught, like if they're caught grouped together, I would expect them to be able to just absolutely clean up. Because you have the Amumu initiation with Bandage Toss followed by his ult. In the meantime, Thresh is going to be able to land a guaranteed hook onto pretty much whoever he wants, drop down his ult, and flay anyone who tries to either retreat or re-engage. In the meantime, Varus is going to drop his ult across all of that, it's going to spread before the CC is removed, and you've just CC'd even more. And in the meantime, you have Jax jumping in, stunning anyone who's grouped, Riven jumping in, stunning anyone who's grouped, and the incredible cleanup potential offered by Jax and Riven. And that's not even including the actual damage that Varus can output come late game, which is pretty respectable. So I'm really excited to see how well Purple Team play this. On the split side, though, if Caitlyn can poke or if Tryndamere gets super fed, they can set up stuff for themselves. But for blue team, it really boils down to mid and top lane being able to snowball if they're going to be able to deal with this. Because Fizz, since his nerfs, really has to snowball, or he just kind of sits there looking sad with his pole.
Right. On the flip side, I would have picked Janna instead of Leona personally, as Purple Team has so much get in your face potential, and a well-timed tornado could really turn the tides for Blue Team. Nami also would have been an excellent choice, I feel like, even Lulu. And especially because Leona did not take Flash. Leona will jump into the middle of their team, and she has no tools to get out. So she needs to ensure that every single engage is perfect, and that's a lot of pressure.
Janna would have been very, very good. If they were going for a Janna, though, I would have liked to see something like a Nidalee mid, because Janna is the quintessential poke comp. Because you pick someone like a Caitlyn, you pick someone like a Nidalee, and you just stand back sieging for days. You pick someone like a Lux. Lux is another great example, although not nearly as popular as Nidalee right now, since her nerfs. But basically, you just siege constantly, and Janna never lets them engage. And the counter to a poke lane is being able to engage. So it's just such a powerful option that you can use to just absolutely decimate people.
Top lane, I think, will be very boring up until it's not, because you have Jax and Tryndamere, and they're both very weak early game compared to other top lane champions, and then they turn into hyper carries. So we'll see how that goes.
Again, a lot of it's going to boil down to the jungler pressure to get both mid and top lane rolling. Both of their mids want to snowball, both of their tops want to snowball. And honestly, I would expect Nocturne to have a much more significant early game impact if they can set this up.
So earlier we talked about how Leona has exhaust and heal instead of flash. Also, Leona took ancient coin to start with. And I'm not a fan of that choice. I'm not a fan of that choice because it doesn't give her any survivability. It's sort of a weak start. She could have gotten Targon's Brace for gold generation, or she could have gotten a ruby crystal to turn into a sight stone, and I think both of those would have been better choices that give her the tools she needs to be in the enemy bot lane space.
Minions have spawned.
I also want to mention the lack of flash on Leona. We commented it in game point 5, which we cancelled out. I didn't comment on it this time because she just took the same summoner skills. As you mentioned, if her engages are not perfect, she's not going to be able to get out. And I just really dislike not having flash in bot lane. But with a Leona, it can work. She can be tanky enough.
So, Purple Team is taking blue for Amumu, and Amumu is doing so uncontested. And we've talked a lot about the importance of counter jungling, especially against tank junglers like Amumu, Sejuani.
I have another concern. I mentioned this in the first game. Riven keeps trying to leash for her jungle. She cannot leash. She just missed half of the wave of experience and is now going to be destroyed by Fizz, same as last game. You need to hit level 2 first. You need to be playing aggressively. Just leave your jungler alone. Generally speaking, as a bot lane player, the jungler gets 3 auto attacks max and I walk to lane. If I'm a mid laner, I will usually throw 1 auto attack at it. That's the maximum they deserve.
So, Riven started with a null magic mantle this time around, and I'm not a big fan of that choice, because 2 health potions is not a lot of sustain against a Fizz, especially with a grievous wounds on one of his abilities. And secondly, I'm concerned about what she'll turn it into. I assume a Hex Drinker, which just doesn't feel ideal on Riven.
Yeah, she's wanting to get the early Hex Drinker. We disliked her Doran's Shield start last game because she was versus a Fizz, and see, now it's a good stun, but I don't think anything's going to come from it.
So, Amumu comes top, drops the bandage on Tryndamere, stunning him, but Tryndamere's going to walk away. But right now, what Amumu's doing is he's just showing his face. I don't really think he was expecting to kill there. He was just going, don't think you're going to be able to farm uncontested, I'm up here. And that's a potent tool by itself, assuming you don't waste too much time.
Now that being said, Amumu really does want to hit 6, so it looks like he is going to go back to his jungle right now, so as long as he doesn't waste too much time, he's going to be fine. I don't know why Twitch is pinging at me every time someone chats. This is really fucking annoying. But yeah, as we mentioned in the first game, Riven should have started Doran's Blade because it gives her sustain, it gives her health, and it gives her damage.
So we are 4 minutes in, and blue has 200 gold advantage. And that comes from farm, especially if you look mid. Void Fizz is up a kill worth of gold up on Riven. Like, he has essentially gotten first blood already.
Yeah, CSing in mid lane is your advantage. It's how you win.
Now, Jax and Tryndamere going even up top. They're pretty much even in farm, but blue team does have a gold advantage still. And that's the sort of thing that you want to stomp out early. You don't want to have small advantages really gather up and turn into a snowball. So
Amumu decided to hold mid, and Nocturne got greedy and ganked. As a result, we see first blood going over to Amumu. Unfortunately, though, Amumu does get taken down by Fizz, and so the buffs are going to go over in his favor. Riven needs to be very careful of that red buff now.
Right, Riven has a longsword and a null magic mantle and 2 potions. She has very limited sustain, and she does have a little bit of defense, but Fizz has such a gold advantage and now red buff that small amount of defenses will not do anything in her favor.
So I just saw Thresh land a really good hook onto Caitlyn. Instead of pulling himself in on the hook and then flaying back into the tower and probably getting a tower shot onto her, he just sort of mistimed things, so that would indicate to me that his Thresh mechanics aren't quite where they need to be. He needs to work on those and make sure that he's not wasting mana, not wasting cooldowns, and is able to set up kills.
Tryndamere drops Ignite up top on Jax. Jax manages to get away, so that's one resource that Tryndamere is down. So he needs to take advantage of the time that Jax is gone to farm and get a CS advantage. He is up 6 CS. He needs to really widen that gap a little more. Instead, he's going back.
Bot lane, unfortunately, is not CSing under tower properly. That is a skill you need to be comfortable with, no matter what lane you're playing. Even as support, it's a very valuable skill to have. Generally speaking, the support will prep one minion, Varus will then hit it after the tower shot, and you're going to get pretty much every CS. They missed out on about 5 or 6 CS just because they were pushed into tower. And assuming Caitlyn keeps doing that, that CS is going to build up very, very quickly. We already see about an 11 CS advantage for Caitlyn.
I believe it's on melee minions, it's tower shot, last hit, and then on caster minions, it is tower shot, auto attack, or the other way around.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
On caster minions, it's tower shot, auto attack.
No, caster minions is auto attack, tower shot, auto attack. Usually the support will do the first auto attack and quote unquote prep the minion.
Oh, okay.
On melee minions, it's tower shot, auto attack. Or if the minions are already hitting it, you'll usually auto attack it once or twice first, one tower shot, then you finish it.
So up top, Jax actually has a small CS advantage now. Obviously not anything that is make or break, but we're seeing how Tryndamere really should have stuck around and gotten some CS. Jax now has the opportunity to catch up and really get a foothold in the lane over Tryndamere.
So Varus is staying with incredibly low health. Because he's so pushed into the tower, this will work for him. But having no mobility and being versus a Leona, he has to be so careful. Good hook and stun coming in from Thresh. The flash from Caitlyn was not needed though. She would have lived just fine. But at this point, Varus is bullied out of lane. Thresh should likely go back. He might want to stay for this one minion wave of experience, but staying in lane, he's not going to be able to do too much. He's not going to have kill potential. At most, he just needs to try and push this wave out as best he can, and then try and set something up. He did hit level 6. If Amumu can get down here, he could set up a kill.
So we're now at 830, and blue has 1,000 gold advantage, and that comes from CS more than the single kill they have. Caitlyn is over Varus by 20 CS, which is about 1 or 2 kills worth. Fizz is just has double Riven's CS, and so on and so on. These really small gold advantages are really going to add up, and Blue Team will be able to sort of use them as a foothold to bigger advantages.
And I don't want to pick on this Riven, but she needs to find ways to farm. And it's just she's zoning herself. She's not really getting much from it. She needs a game plan. Whether that's, okay, I'm not going to be able to duel Fizz, so I need to find opportunities to wave clear and go roam. Or I need to be able to hit an item breakpoint, so I'm going to go take some jungle camps away from Amumu. I'm going to take Wraiths when they spawn. You need a plan. You need to know what you're trying to do, and you can use that to set up plays. In the meantime, we see Fizz roaming bot as Nocturne ults top. Nocturne just barely living, actually. Fizz is in this bush, and there is no vision. Leona ult leads in. Zenith Blade connects. Little bit sloppy engage, but they are going to take away a support kill. In the meantime, Riven pushes in. Doesn't really get anything for it, though. If your mid opponent is roaming, you need to communicate to that your team, and then you need to decide what you're going to do. Am I A, going to push in and try and take tower, or at least get damage onto the tower? Am I going to follow them and try and catch them in the jungle? Am I going to roam to another lane? You need to constantly be asking yourself what the best play you can do at any one given time is. And unfortunately, she's just opting to take like 5 or 10 CS instead.
So right now, Riven really needs to look at what her overall role in the game is. Not in lane, but what role she needs to be playing in team fights, because we're coming close to that phase of the game. And Riven needs to start working towards that goal. She needs to go, I'm Riven, I need damage, and I need a little bit of survivability so that I can get on their carries and disrupt them and hopefully kill them. And then she needs to build accordingly. Right now, she's like a lost lamb in mid lane. You know, she's grabbing some farm, and I feel like she's noticing that she is 2 kills and 15 CS down on Fizz, and she's freezing up. She should be trying to take wraiths, trying to farm while Fizz roams, or follow him, doing anything she can to climb back into the game, and just keep an eye on what she needs to do in team fights, and see what she can do to achieve it.
Amumu is bot lane, not able to land anything there. I apologize for not getting down there earlier, but yeah, that one ward from blue team, just saving them from these ganks. On the split side though, purple team not really setting up much vision. Personally, as a bot lane player, support player, I really like my early Sightstone. Both have a Sightstone, but they're not placing any wards. Also, just a piece of advice for both of their bot laners, they both have Sightstone, but have not swapped out to Sweeping Lens. That could be a spectator bug, but yeah, no, I'm not showing it.
Blue team is doing some warding, mostly in the river, but purple team just is not stepping it up at all.
Yeah, you need to maintain map control and try and set up advantages for yourself. And at this point, purple team's just sort of sitting bot lane, picking up what farm they can, and waiting for a play to be able to be made.
And unfortunately, plays don't just appear out of midair. You have to set them up. And there are 2 types of players. There are team players who sort of move with their team and make things happen by herding cats. And there are generals who bark orders, keep timers, and sort of just push people in the direction they need to go. And I suspect that purple has neither of those things right now. They are a collection of individuals.
Okay, so I actually just paused and I wanted to critique this mid play. Riven is very low, Fizz is full health. Fizz is able to land a quick combo and immediately get out. That's a very good play from Fizz. Riven staying at that health, though, is very questionable. Amumu then comes, holds lane. The minions aren't actually at turret, so he just sort of sticks around at half health. He's just sort of dancing around saying, oh, but I want the farm. Farm is good. I'm hungry. And then we see the exact same thing happen. Gets a lot of damage on. Ult goes down, and again, he stays with 200 health. I don't know what Amumu thinks is going to happen here. Fizz just goes in and picks up another free kill, and is just snowballing from there. You cannot let things like that happen. You need to be aware of how much damage your opponent can put out, and how much damage you can take. Those 2 things put you as dead, you need to be getting out. Same thing bot lane there. Varus just gets collapsed on a little bit. Not as bad a play by any means, but just something that he needs to keep an eye open for. Nocturne using ult again, not able to take down Jax. I'm just sort of going to fast forward back to where we are in live.
So, this is my silver opinion, so feel free to correct me. I think what Purple needs to do is they need to try to take an objective. They need to group up. They have really strong teamfight potential with Amumu and Varus ults and Thresh ults, but they're just sticking in lane, and they're losing lanes. Every single one of them is losing lane, except for even Tryndamere. So they just need to do something. They need to take Dragon, they need to mobilize and move as 5 and take advantage of their wombo combo as opposed to just laning.
Yeah, I want to see Dragon taken at some point here. It's such an easy objective for them to take, and Riven's still doing the exact same thing. She's so far behind, and she's still trying to fight. You do not want to fight when behind. The only time you do want to fight is when you're forced to, or when you can immediately gain an advantage to yourself. Amumu going to be taken down here. Very good bait coming out from Fizz and Nocturne. I'm not sure if that was communicated beforehand, but I have to comment on that and really appreciate their teamwork there.
Oop, my client's crashed. Give me a second. It
Fair
doesn't
enough.
like spectating very much.
So bot lane here, Caitlyn is ahead. She has her Bloodthirster, whereas Varus only has his BF sword. That means that you cannot trade. As a Varus player here, any damage you put down on Caitlyn, she's just going to heal right back up, and you're not going to, or not to the same extent anyways. So that just puts them in the exact same situation as they have been in earlier, where you can't fight, you just have to farm and try and set up plays elsewhere on the map. And again, we see Purple Team has 2 wards down. Oh, actually, Leona lands a good engage here. All not quite connecting, but are able to take down Varus very quickly. Threshhook not quite connecting. Caitlyn should be able to take down this tower, actually. In the meantime, we see Amumu going in top lane. Lands the bandage toss onto... lands the bandage toss onto... Okay, good job. I got distracted there. I'm not sure why Tryndamere didn't ult in that fight. Amumu does land the bandage toss onto Tryndamere. Tryndamere just trying to bait in for Nocturne. It was a great sort of bait and gank, but Tryndamere had his ult up. I don't know why he didn't use it, so Amumu was able to take away that kill for himself.
Right now, Amumu is a problem for Blue Team. His ult is so potent, and he has all 3 of Purple Team's kills. I mean, I would be very concerned about his effect on team fights.
Assuming the other lanes can sort of farm out or salvage their lanes in some way, I would want to see them trying to focus down Amumu, counter-jungling him, ganking him, setting up fights. I feel like the game is disconnected.
Yeah, I'm seeing lots of lag, and I wasn't sure if that was me or not. But right now, losing the outer turrets might be the best thing that could have happened for Purple Team. When you have all towers up, you sort of have a large sphere of protection that you need to maintain. You need to be keeping all of the outer towers. When you lose them, and the inners are all that's left, sort of, you have more room to bunch up. You need to ward more. You need to be sticking as a team more. You need to be defending a smaller sphere, which really kind of, I mean, they got a gold advantage, but you have more opportunities to work as a team, and you have less need to travel outside of your little base.
Okay, so Spectator is down. I'm not sure if that means the game itself ended or what. I'm going to try and respectate here. I really hope the servers aren't going down. No, it seems like I'm able to reconnect.
Server is MVP. It gets a tentakill.
But Vel'Koz isn't in this game. How can it be a tentakill?
I don't know the Latin phrase for 10 or whatever. Whatever
Isn't
the
it
root
Deca?
is. Yeah, I guess that'd be a Deca.
Okay, so it seems like the entire game is crashed.
Oh no.
Because I can reconnect to spectator client, but it stops at the exact same point of the game.
I am at 1842, but everyone is standing still in the same place they have been
Yep.
since, like...
Oh, this is just lovely.
Is it time for jokes?
Sure, go ahead. Oh my god, it unpaused. It didn't want to hear jokes.
Oh no, that's really tragic.
Okay, I do like the 5,000 turret shots all chasing after single targets. The leg is still here, sort of, yeah.
I once had a bug where the texture on Dragon was the ignite icon. I don't know why. So he would throw ignite icons at you.
Oh yeah, that's actually quite common. I remember minion icons were exhaust icons. That was fun. Like every single minion particle was exhaust.
That's pretty incredible, actually.
It was unplayable. It was just like this giant stream of green ignite icon. Sorry, exhaust icons.
I'm pretty sure that like Jax is just a minion that got really fed.
It's true. Someone asked me what they should name their AD carry only account, and I said Fed Caster Minion. Like, come on, that's the perfect name for an AD carry account. Okay, so apparently the entire game exited. Lovely drop hacks. Fun. Oops, I swapped to the wrong display mode.
Is there like a famous person with the last name Marks? Because I'm trying to think of a marksman pun.
I'm sure there's a lot of them. Unfortunately, we can't really comment on item builds just because there was a lot of disparity there, and we weren't able to get to sort of late game item builds. Overall, the sort of idea behind their builds are fine. It's just a matter of how well they were executed and the teamwork. Unfortunately, though, I can't do anything about that. We are going to go ahead and make a new match here. I apologize to everyone in this game, but these are issues beyond our control. I am going to start the RP giveaway, though. Just give me one moment. I don't suppose you have like any final thoughts on that there, Requeen?
That sort of was kind of a cluster bomb of a game, so it's hard for me to comment since so much of the process was diluted by lag. I will say that Tryndamere, the Warden's Mail is interesting to me.
Sorry, the Warden's Mail on Jax?
Tryndamere.
Oh, Tryndamere.
Well, would that be a Randuin's?
Yes.